The Gators landed their 22nd commitment of the 2024 cycle on Monday by landing elite cornerback Wardell Mack out of Louisiana. Let's bring on Corey Bender of Gators Online. Now, Corey, I'm going to talk to you about how you would grade the Gators 24 class in a minute. But first, we got to talk about a few battles UF is still in the 24 cycle. Let's go down first to IMG Academy, where four-star offensive tackle Jordan Seaton, the number 2 ranked OT in the country. Now, he's been taking his time, but this week his recruitment sort of started to come into focus when he dropped 6 official visits. Hey, the rules are the rules. You might as well take advantage of them. He's already taken one summer trip to Alabama, but he announced that he's going to go to see LSU, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Oregon, South Carolina, and UF. Now, I want to know where the Gators stand, but first, how important is Jordan Seaton to this class for UF?
I would say definitely pretty important. I say that because Florida has a pretty good offensive line class to begin with. I think Fletcher Westphal, he's kind of the headliner as a blue chip guy on 300. But I feel like they kind of could use another really signature piece along the offensive line class. And when you look at Seaton's ranking, he's number 2 ranked offensive tackle. I mean, that alone speaks volumes. But I think it's a kid that could probably play inside as well. I think there's some versatility. And, you know, and it's also another IMG kid. I feel like since Billy Napier got to Florida, he's kind of really changed the picture when it comes to Florida's involvement in IMG. But all in all, I think they could definitely use another signature piece along the offensive line. And, you know, adding a guy like Seaton would be massive for this class and for Billy Napier's staff.
So you see the visits. He's already taken the 1 to Alabama, but he has 6 left. Where do you feel the Gators stand in his recruitment right now?
So when I spoke to Jordan in the spring, it was like late May. I went to a spring game. When I got done speaking with him, I got the vibe that it was Alabama and Florida, just the way his face lit up about both programs. And at the time, he talked about taking OVs to Florida and Alabama over the summer. Like you said, Josh, Alabama's the only school that got him on campus. But I recently put him in Florida's mock class about a month ago. And I say that because, you know, proximity with him being in Bradenton, you know, an IMG schedule, they can't really travel as much too. And that's the interesting part. You know, with them having all these unlimited OVs, IMG schedule is very tricky to work around. And it's not often when they can get out to college campuses. Maybe this year's a little bit different and they kind of open it up a little bit. But I think Florida's definitely in probably that top 3 range for him. I think you kind of have to give Alabama the edge right now just because they got him on campus over the summer. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, with Nick Saban's program, I mean, obviously everything speaks for itself. So I think Florida, they're definitely right there, probably in the top 3 range, but it definitely gets a little bit more confusing with all those OVs. And I was talking to Keith Niebuhr, obviously my coworker at Gators Online, and it kind of, you know, if it was the normal 5 official visit slate, I'd probably be even more confident in Florida. But I think if you're anyone tracking his recruitment, you just have to say right now it's a wait and see with him because, you know, with over 5 official visits scheduled for the fall, a lot can happen.
Yeah. All right. Let's stay in the state of Florida. Go over to the East Coast, Daytona Beach, mainland. That's where safety Zay Mincy's at, one of the top DBs in the state of Florida. Actually, On3 has him as a top 50 player overall. And rumors were swirling all weekend that maybe he was going to make a commitment to Miami. It didn't happen. So what's your read on his recruitment as it stands right now? Let me set the scene. Summer is coming to an end. You've spent the last 2 months on the beach, and the first weekend of college football is right around the corner, and you don't have tickets. It sounds like a nightmare, but don't let this be the way that you start your season. That's why I'm here to tell you about Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the big-time matchups. Game Time will get you to this year's biggest college football games with elite deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee. Don't stress over getting your favorite team's season opener or the biggest rivalry game of the year. There's only so many big games, and you need to get these tickets at the best prices. That's why Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. We know we're terrible at that. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets on all the sports and entertainment events. You can even use this for concerts. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So here's what you're going to do. Snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. I need you to download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off your first purchase. Create an account and use promo code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off. Go download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Yeah, I think right now it's another recruitment that's pretty unpredictable. I don't think there's anyone that really has a true idea of what he's going to do. He's a fairly well-reserved kid. Florida's been the most consistent. I put in a prediction several months ago, and a lot of that had to do with him not really traveling out of state as much. He's been to Florida more than any other school. But as it's gotten closer to the start of the season, like you said, Miami is kind of surfaces another school for him. You got Florida State. I don't believe they're recruiting him as hard as probably Florida and Miami. And then you also have a school like Alabama. So I think right now, Florida and Miami are the schools I'm monitoring the most. A little bit more with Florida right now just because they've been the most consistent. But there definitely has been a little bit of Miami buzz as of late. I think they definitely closed ground on Florida a little bit. But I think as of today, I like where Florida stands the most. But, as the fall unwinds, he takes visits, I think that could definitely change. But I think Florida fans just have to be patient here. And, they're still definitely in a very good spot for Zay Mincy.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens over the next couple weeks. Still time for him to make a summer decision. But his teammate, LJ McCray, the 6'5", 240-pound defensive lineman, he is making most likely an October decision sometime in the fall. It seemed like an in-state battle with FSU, but then Georgia gets involved late in July. What do you think is going on right now with LJ McCray and where the Gators stand?
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to Zay Mincy. I think it's a kid that likes a lot of different schools. A good 3 or 4, but it's very tough on him, really trying to find that separator between that one and the other few. I think right now, Florida State, and Georgia, Josh, like you mentioned, I think those are the schools that I'm focused on the most. Miami and Auburn, they are part of his official visit plans as well. But for much of this year, Florida and Florida State have been the schools buzzing the most. And, once Georgia gets a kid on campus, especially a nationally ranked kid like that, that's a school can get a kid on campus just once and everything changes. But I think right now, the one thing to keep an eye on is the Florida State OV in October. Like I said early in the year, I always was giving FSU the slight edge. There's always been a certain connection with that staff. And, all his other OVs, he got to spend time with the staff. For this OV, it's going to be a game day environment. Tallahassee's going to be rocking. And that can make a lasting impression on his recruitment, depending on if they win or lose that game. So it's a very tough recruitment. I like Georgia, Florida, and Florida State, but the Seminoles are positioned pretty well right now, just based off they're the ones that had to kind of wait to get an OV. But usually you would say that could hurt a school if they don't get an OV in the summer nowadays. But they actually could end up paying, making a big factor with them and, being a big deal for them.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can't talk Gator recruiting in the summer if we don't bring up Jeremiah Smith, the number 1 ranked wide receiver in the country, committed to Ohio State. Heading into the summer, there was some buzz around the Gators. He took that early June official visit. And from there, really, there was no visit high that wore off. I mean, Jeremiah Smith has remained in contact with UF, and they seem like they have a possibility to flip him down the road. He said that he's going to make a quote-unquote final decision in December. Even though he's committed to Ohio State, it's still going to come down to a final decision. What do you think about where the Gators stand with Jeremiah Smith as we kind of head out of summer here?
So I think with Florida, among the in-state schools, I think what really helped Florida was having DJ Lagway on board, having that 5-star quarterback. I think all receivers, when you're a generational talent like Jeremiah Smith, I mean, it's more of a business decision. I mean, this is how it is. And you have a quarterback that flew out of town twice just to be there when Jeremiah Smith was there. And I know that really impressed Jeremiah and everyone close to him. So I think Florida, they're definitely right there near the top. I know Miami and FSU, they're right there too. So there's always that appeal of staying home and playing in Florida. The way I look at his recruitment is, Ohio State with Brian Hartline. I mean, Ohio State, there's not a better school in America producing wide receivers. So I think, obviously, he loves Ohio State. That's where he's most comfortable. And I think he really likes the in-state school. So there's that love and that really like separator for me when I look at his recruitment. And I'm sure it's very hard. I'm sure he goes to Florida, he goes to Miami, and those relationships are very strong. But as you get when you get back home and you kind of look at the pros and cons of every school, he's having a difficult time kind of going away from Ohio State, and understandably so. So I think right now, I think it's going to be very difficult to flip him. I know there's going to be probably some drama down the stretch, some buzz with other schools thinking they have a real shot. And anything can happen in recruiting, but, bearing any major surprises, I just have a difficult time seeing him flipping from Ohio State.
Yeah, but as long as he has that, I am making a final decision date still in mind,
Yeah.
all the three big teams in the state of Florida will not back down.
Yeah.
All right, Corey, 22 commitments for the Gators already, and we're not even out of August yet. There's about 4 months to go. So I wanted to get your opinion on how you would grade the Gators 2024 class to this point.
I would probably give it an A minus, and the reason I don't give it a flat out A yet, just because there's I think we covered it pretty good with Jordan Seaton.
Right.
I think Florida's offensive line class is really good, but they can use another big signature piece. They arguably have the top linebacker class in the country. I mean, you have 2 5-stars with DJ Lagway and Xavier Filsaime. So I think overall, I mean, it's hard to give a school a perfect A in recruiting unless you're number one. That's the way I kind of grade it. But I think an A minus class right now, top 3 in the country, and you haven't even played a game yet this fall. And look at the amount of kids on board, too. And I think another thing, Josh, a lot of these kids have said, if Florida struggles a little bit in the fall, it's not going to be a situation where kids start taking visits and they start looking elsewhere. They want to be part of that rebuild process with Billy Napier, and it's a very tight-knit group. So I don't see too much drama as far as maybe guys flipping down the road if Florida does struggle, but there's still about a handful of guys left on the board, and I think if you're a Florida fan, you got to be really excited and happy with what Billy Napier's staff has done to this point.
Absolutely. Wardell Mack commits to the Gators on Monday. They just keep rolling, a top 3 class. Corey Bender, thanks for stopping by the Inside Scoop talking Gators recruiting.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
That's it.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.